don't know.
Well, thank you so much. And actually, we just went live. So yeah, so first and foremost, thank you, PM, for taking the time. For anybody who's tuning in and watching today's Coach's Corner, this is the second official Coach's Corner. Last week was a bit of an experiment. I'm literally learning how to use all this software and simulcast and everything else. So hopefully you are now seeing this both on YouTube and on the X account. And so today, and what I want Coach's Corner to be, which I shared last week, is just sort of a catch-all conversation about an hour long with anybody who's interested in Kujira. Obviously, I'm one of the newer folks here in the ecosystem. I think I started getting involved when I minted Plucky Penguins, which was late last fall, and just absolutely fell in love with not only the tech and having, you know, everything that I need for DeFi in a single place, but the more I got to know the community. And, you know, I'm really excited to have Pragmatic Monkey here today with us, because I felt like once I started putting out some of those messages of positivity and everything else, I'm trying to like mute that tab. Just, you know, you and I seemed to click right away. You know, it just seemed like we were kindred spirits. Maybe it's the fact that we're slightly older than the average people who are in crypto. I know it's a lot of young folks, and of course, patience is a virtue and something that I even almost at 50, I still work on every day. But so happy to have you here, Pragmatic Monkey, or PM. And why don't you just share a little bit about, I'm sure everybody knows you, probably people know you far more than they know me. But yeah, there's really no specific agenda for today's conversation, so we'll just let it take us where it may. But I'm really excited to have you on and just talk about specifically what you're doing, what you've been building, Manta DAO, and then, you know, any other kind of random conversations we get into about life and everything else.
No, perfect. Love the. So thanks for having me first, and love the easy going setup. Very cool. And I could not agree more. Like I've loved the way you approach things. I have loved your Wednesday Wisdom video. Like it's always like very well thought and good wisdom into it. And I think you bring to our community a lot of things that. That is generally missing in the crypto space, which is a longer term mindset, and I think that's very important, especially now. Like people tend to get mad at price action, and that's a very normal emotional reaction. Like especially when you have put your money, and if you have put it at a higher price and you are mad. But reality is what we are building here is something very big. Like for me, like my vision is like the minimum time scale I have in mind whenever I take a decision for Manta DAO, for example, is at least like for most things, at least 5 years, more like 10 years, 20 years. Like I'm here for the I'm playing the long game. I'm here for very like pretty much. I'm not seeing myself going anywhere in the next decade, probably decades with plural. So I tend to approach things much more calmly. And the big vision is really, if we start with crypto as a broader category, what we are doing here, effectively, we have a tech that is a disintermediation technology. It allows us to remove intermediaries. It allows us to move away from an economic system where basically capital begets capital, and wealth tend to concentrate into even fewer hands over time. It's just a mechanical reaction because the game is flawed. We can't the game, basically the economic system as we are in, what we call capitalist, but it's not really probably a good definition for a real capitalist system is. What we are in is effectively like a monopoly game. And the way we count the points in this monopoly game is with fiat currency. So if you live in the US, it's with dollars. And the game is fundamentally rigged because we can expand the quantity of points in the system, so the quantity of dollars. And it's just a few unelected people very close to powers that can decide if we increase the quantity of money or if we reduce it. And most of the time we are forced to increase it because we live in a fiat-based system where money, where currency actually come into existence in the form of debt. And as long as you have a non-zero interest rate, the more debt you create. So the more money you create, the more you have interest to repay on top of the debt that you created. And that means you need to keep increasing ever and ever the quantity of money in the game to be able to keep the game running. So it's basically a Ponzi scheme. That's where we all live in. And the only way to prevent the system from collapsing via a default is to keep ever expanding the quantity of money, because money is equal debt, fiat money equal debt. That means we keep increasing the amount of currency in the game to infinity to the long run. And the issue is the people who decide how much we increase the quantity of liquidity and who gets to benefit from this liquidity is just a few people and central bankers and governments and via the treasury. And the rest of us, we usually effectively get diluted, and we have no choice into that. And we are forced to play this game. It's really the reality of it is we end up being in a system where every assets keep increasing in price over average to long time frame, like whether it's equity, public or private, whether it's real estate, houses price keep going up and up just because we have a fixed stock where maybe it's growing a bit, but it's very limited, and we price it in dollar, which keep increasing and increasing. And if you don't own assets already, if you own assets, you are very well. You get actually the benefit of this new increase in the amount of points in the system. But if you don't, you get diluted. At the beginning of the year, it was $100 in the economy. You were owning 1% of that, so $1. And by the end of the year, now there is $200 in the economy, but your net worth is still $1 because it's just your salary. And let's say you earn and you spend what you earn, and you don't save and you don't invest in scarce assets. That means that at the end of the year, you only own 0.5% of the total quantity of money in the system. So you have been diluted, you got poorer. And now if you want to afford the exact same house or the exact same stock in a company, or you have to pay twice the price, but you don't get twice the income. So all of that to say, the system is kind of rigged. And what we are trying to do with crypto is, thanks to a technology that allows us to remove intermediaries and to have much more clarity, much more transparency on the flow of funds and the functioning of the system, instead of having to trust other humans to do the right thing as they are supposed to do, to follow rules set by humans. We enshrine those rules into smart contracts, and the system executes the same way for everybody. Code doesn't discriminate, and everybody can access this new system. It's permissionless, and if you don't like something, you are totally free to create something different, and everything is interoperable, and you can let like a real market economy play out, and we can experiment with a lot of different things, and something will fail, something will work, and sometime when we fail, we learn lesson and we improve, and we can have like very rapid iterations cycle from innovation to failure to new innovation that improve of the precedent iteration. And we can get into a world where eventually hopefully a lot more people owns different type of assets. So instead of owning share into a company, everybody end up owning like tokens in product and services that they use. And they get a share of the cash flow, because effectively those tokens are just ownership titles that give you a right of governance, but also governance come with a right to direct what we do with the profits. And in the purest form, you get DAOs, decentralized autonomous organization, where the token is how you align interest across all the participants in the system. And every you create products and services that have value, that collect some fees. You can lower the fees way more than you would be able to do in a traditional corporate environment, because your cost base is so low. Once you run a smart contract, you just have a smart contract website, and that's it. And you can run at perpetuity on a blockchain with pretty much zero cost. And you just incentivize people with tokens, and everybody is at the same door. And your token gives you back a share of the cash flows that is generated by this system. So it allows us to create a new economic system that is much more fair, much more transparent, where effectively the value creation inside this economy, this new economic system, is distributed much more efficiently across the participants. So that's the vision. And Kujira is one of the many expressions of this new type of possible economic system. I like it a lot because, well, the tools that are in there are quite unique and frankly great. The tech is very robust, and I also like the team very much, and what's have been the spirit I've been trying to diffuse around as they embarked in this new adventure. And I like the community. Like, I met a lot of very good, very interesting people in here, and that's also very important as part of this new journey of where we create a new economic system, but we also create a new governance system for digital economies, and it's come along new forums too, where we speak in a digital format with people like you and me, and on Telegram and on Discord and all that. So it's a whole new world we are building, and the vision is this take times. So Kujira is one experiment. There are many other experiments on Arbitrum, on EVM chain, on Solana. We can all collaborate. At the end, it's not like a gang fight with also the Cosmos ecosystem. It's just like we are us trying to build this new economic system versus the old world, the TradFi world, with traditional governments and traditional banks. And the reality is, what we are trying to do, in my sense, is to take market share from this old system towards this new economic system. It doesn't matter if you're on Kujira or somewhere else, and you are not forced to pick one ecosystem and stick to it. You can try around in different places, and then you see where you get the best vibe, and that's where you settle, and you try to contribute in whatever way you can to grow it, and make sure that little by little we can retip a bit the balance of wealth distribution, and all of us can make money together and try to break free from this old corporate world that's we all feel, I think, is broken, and is not giving us what we are paying for. And so, yeah, that's a long process, a very long process. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in 2-3 years. It's going to happen over decades. And that's the mindset you should have when you invest in crypto, in my view. And that's why, like, short-term price action should not impact you. Like, you should only put money, like everybody does that, but money that you can afford to lose. And if you cannot sleep at night, you have overstretched yourself, and you're not ready yet to make the full transition to this new world. Well, just keep grinding at the fiat mine, save whatever you can, put it into token you appreciate. Price is done, great. It gives you an opportunity to control a slightly bigger share of this network, and have this very long-term mindset, and see how you can bring value, like be an active member of this community, and whatever is your specialty, how can you bring that to the table to grow the pie for everyone. And you will be surprised how everybody can have an impact, and this is super cool. And the more you get into that, the more you meet people, the more everything grows, the more like it becomes fun, and it's an amazing experience. But it takes time. Yeah, that's really the thing I want to to put in people's minds. So don't get bothered by short-term price action. That's just noise, and there are a lot of things to get excited about.
Yeah, there. You said so many things in that opening monologue that I really want to just rip on. And so, we just, for everybody who is watching, or if you're watching on the replay, before we got started, PM and I were discussing how, some people are having this negative sentiment about price action and so on and so forth. But I said that I went into Kujira as a long-term investor. I'm an older, I'll be 49 this year. I started a Roth IRA nearly 20 years ago. So when I buy into something, when I make an investment into something, whether it is a stock, some kind of company, like a traditional equity, or even if it's a token in the crypto world, I always do so thinking about, where am I going to be? How is this going to impact my wife and I financially over the long run? And as someone who is I've been in crypto now for about 7 years. I joined that first kind of FOMO wave in 2017, just bought some Bitcoin and Ethereum, didn't really pay attention to it, certainly didn't sell it, hodled it all the way into the ground. And then I paid attention again in 2020. And that's when I started taking it serious. But it's funny talking about the banks and just sort of like trying to disintermediate that. And one of the things I have in my own personal profile is be your own bank, because that's one of the things that I found was truly compelling about Kujira, is that a lot of times you have sort of this very atomized DeFi system where it's, over here you have a lending market, and over here you have trading, and over here you have, whatever you just fill in. Like, no one else has, of course, like liquidation, like Orca. So like seeing these things that were being built out, and I'll never forget even getting somebody early on. This was probably like last November when KP had kind of dragged me down into the Kuji, rabbit hole because of Plucky Penguins. They were doing all these competitions about, to bring liquidity in. And so, most of our portfolio, because my wife and I are older crypto investors, is Bitcoin and Ethereum. And so when I realized, it's like, oh, if you bridge in some liquidity, we were having these competitions between like the shrimps and the Plucky Penguins, and so I hadn't really looked or used the suite of tools that was available to me. I just minted Plucky Penguins. I wanted to support KP. I'm a bit of an NFT degen. I like supporting artists. And then when I realized, like, whoa, wait a minute, I can like take my ETH and lend this out like the make or die model and get stable coins and go do stuff with this. This is really kind of cool. And I'm very conservative, I think, when it comes to risk. So I took a very low loan. But that kind of piqued my curiosity. I'm like, what else is going on here? Like, what else is in Kujira? And then I was really blown away by the fact that everything was there in one place. And I remember writing a post about it on my main Funky account. And and even Zaki himself quote tweeted me, which I was like, whoa, this is really crazy, because I said something about it's so nice to have all the DeFi tools I need in one place. I don't have to IBC to some other chain. I don't have to go to some other network altogether. Like, it's all right there at my disposal. And that's the thing. So that's where I kind of came up with that tagline of be your own bank. And so it's interesting talking about that disintermediation and trying to kind of reclaim that financial autonomy for all of us, for all these individuals who are out there. And even just the other, I think it was today or maybe yesterday, I saw Vanessa, technology poet. She had posted something on X about separating the banks from the bankers, right? Because that's what Kujira is. In many respects, it's like an online bank that gives you everything that you need to do kind of with these financial tools. And so that made me think about the whole be your own bank. And then when you add to the fact, like what you were talking about, PM, just thinking with that long range mindset and having these tools, look at what Kujira Academy is already doing, right? We know, I taught geography for many years. I was a teacher for 20 years. And in Africa or any developing, region, it's very common to leapfrog. Most of them don't have iMacs. Like, I'm on an iMac or a MacBook or any kind of laptop. They have phones, and you have Sonar, just like you could do everything right there on an app. And I know that not all of the tools work completely yet, because it's still, they're constantly iterating and just innovating. But now, we saw this leak with the whole seedless wallet thing, and, you can do Face ID if you have an iPhone. Like, it blows my mind sometimes how anybody could be negative or bearish seeing all the things that are being built in this ecosystem. And this is why I was saying on Wednesday, like, just build people up. Like, people need to have other people cheering them on, right? Like, it can be incredibly destructive when people just are bombarded with negativity despite their best efforts. And this is why I want to kind of carry that torch. I'm not a team member. I don't make anything. I love the product. And to go, another point that you made too is the people. This is the other thing I immediately loved about Kujira was the people. Like, it's such an interesting, unique, very kind of eclectic band of characters in Kujira. And I'll admit, and shout out to the KujiCast boys, Danny and Max. Like, the first space I ever heard with Kujira was them. And like, so I got this like dry British humor, and they're just saying things like, I grew up in the 80s, right? Like, we live in a world now, everybody gets so offended so easily about anything. And these guys are just like saying stuff that like sounded like it could have come from an 80s comedy movie that would be you'd be canceled for like in a heartbeat today. And I was just laughing hysterically. I'm like, these guys, like, they have no filter whatsoever. And it was just so refreshing to be around people who were just like, they were roasting people who were leaving comments. And so there was just something about the folks I started meeting from the jump that I was like, this is a fun group of people to be around. And the more I studied it, the more I started using the tools. And then, of course, I'll be the first to admit, going back to the price action comment, and I even said this in the Kuji chat, like, I am probably well underwater at this point because I started chasing the pump, because around the time that like everybody was like, when I came on board and minted Plucky Penguins, it was probably Kuji was like $1 something, but it was starting that big run uphill. And I just kept buying. And I was just cutting loose any old moon bag. Oh, hey, look at this. I found some Ave on my ledger. That's never going to do anything. Sell it, buy Kuji. And I don't care that it's now down because I see the vision and I know that this is going to continue to blossom, right? Because we have people like you. We have people like, or just Manta DAO, or like you take any of these kind of like sub teams, or look at Nami. Look what JP and the crew are building. And we're going to have Nami very soon. Or, Aqua Libre is now here and bringing some of this stuff on chain for the carbon credits and whatnot. Like, there's just so many positive things happening. I don't understand why people get so negative, but I do think it has a lot to do with it's a very young demographic. People aren't terribly patient. There is kind of, crypto does kind of instill that mindset of up only all the time, where I've seen a lot of up and down in my life, both in personal relationships, in financial things. Like you get used to the up and downs, I guess. So anyhow, like I am super, super bullish on Kujira. You will get nothing but positivity out of me because I feel like I see the vision that the team has laid out, and then quality people like you who are leaders in the ecosystem, just heads down, grinding, doing what's best, building more stuff, adding value to the ecosystem. So tell me, like, and still, because I'm still new, right? I'll be the first to admit I do have Manta. I don't have a ton of Manta. I have it staked. I just bought some one time and I just staked it all. I'm like, well, I gotta have some Manta too, and
appreciate.
There's been a big shakeup, right? Like all this stuff that's happened, but it seems like the community is okay with it. We're moving on. So tell us more. Like, can you tell me more about Manta DAO and like what you guys are doing now, right? Because of this big shakeup, you're kind of taking over the project. You're leading it in a different direction. Like, can you share more with what's going on?
No, of course. So first of all, I think an important point to mention when you what is a bit unique, is actually totally unique to Kuji. As you say, you have all those different applications, and they are all parts of the layer one. This is very beautiful because then once you own Kuji, effectively what you own is a claim on a share of all the economic activity happening in this ecosystem and a share of the cash flow of this economic activity, whether it's trading volume on fins, lending interest on Ghost, minting fees on USK, all those things. Most of the protocol future is going to also accrue fees to Kuji stackers. All of that, all this economic activity generate a small fee that's funneled back to Kuji stackers. So it creates a very unique ecosystem where instead of just relying on selling block space, we actually get a benefit in the entire things that are happening on chain. That's very cool. And so, starting from this postulate, effectively we have like now an amazing rocket. But the rocket is all the tools, Fin, Bo, the IMM on top of Fin, Ghost, USK. All those things are great tools, but you need liquidity. Liquidity is the fuel for your rocket. And without liquidity, you cannot facilitate volumes and you cannot grow cash flow materially. And liquidity is also key when we onboard all those new users. So now seedless wallet is going to be another amazing tool to completely abstract away the concept of having to custody your private key and just being able to scan your face or touch your finger thumb, and boom, you get access to the entire ecosystem. This is amazing. But then if you want to trade, if you want to buy your Bitcoin, your Ethereum, all that, you still need liquidity. So the idea with MantaDAO for me from the beginning was always to be the liquidity powerhouse for Kujira, basically. So what we do is two things. So it was started by Mike, who was a very prominent developer in the Kujira ecosystem, but also one of the largest investor via his fund, A10 Capital. And he built this first product, MantaSwap, which is a multi-op router allowing anybody. So right now on Fin, so Fin is the order book DEX. You get markets that are pairs. So, for example, I'm going to list Kuji against USK or Kuji against Atom. But then you can only trade every individual pairs. You can put a limit order in any of, or execute a market order in any of the pairs. But you cannot say, oh, I have Kuji and I want Nami. Well, there is no Kuji Nami market, so you cannot actually get that in one transaction. And MantaSwap, what it does, it's a multi-op router. So it allows you to swap any input token for any output token. And in the backend, it looks at all the liquidity in Fin order book. And it will find the optimal routes. And sometimes you can even capture like arbitrage, because actually sometimes you can sell, go from token A to token B is not the optimal route. You can actually go from token A to token C to token B, and you capture a little arbitrage because there was some price differences between the order books. So it's a very cool tool. And every time you do a swap on MantaSwap, you also effectively execute trades on Fin. So all the economic activity that is generated on MantaSwap benefits Kuji stackers, because it generates maker trades on Fin, which is 15 bips of volume every time there is a trade. And because it's a multi-op router, meaning that actually instead of usually you often find like an optimal route is with one op to two op typically. So that means effectively you execute not just one market order at 15 bips, but 2 to 3 market order at 15 bips. So everything else being equal, the user who swaps end up having a better output because he captures an arbitrage between the different pairs. And Kuji stackers end up having 2 to 3x more taker fees, because instead of doing just one swap, we did a few. Cosmos Joe. Hey Joe. What part of Australia probably? I'm yeah, you got me with my accent. Yeah, I'm from Australia. So yes, so that coming back to the vision. So Mike launched it with this product. So from day one, a revenue generating product, which is MantaSwap, which benefits both users and Kuji stackers. And then he airdropped 5% of the supply to all Kuji stackers. That's how I got interested, because I have a decent stack of Kuji. I got a nice airdrop. I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. So from day one, I joined. I started to make plans on how we could use the remaining, because the vision was to use the remaining 95% of the liquidity of the Manta token not distributed to build liquidity over time on Kujira, or fund the development of other revenue generating projects. And so I went into the discourse. I to draft a very long plan of many ideas I had, and I could totally see the big potentials. And for me, MantaDAO from day one was always a mean to an end, a community initiative allowing to improve user experience on Kujira, and doing that by providing on one hand 2 links to like MantaSwap and a few other stuff we were working on, and we are working on new ones now. But so 2 links to help user experience, but also liquidity, because without liquidity you cannot do all the things like all the trading and buy tokens to deposit on Ghost, or to mint USK against that collateral. You need the liquidity to make all the rest work. So it was very 2 things: a product part of the business, creating toolings to improve the experience and generating revenue to Manta stackers, and a liquidity part. Use all this remaining treasury to raise capital to build long-term sustainable liquidity on Kujira. And when I say sustainable, it means that because it's owned by the protocol and we are not gonna go anywhere, doesn't need to be incentivized. Once it's there, it's sticky. And the beauty of Fin, because it's an order book DEX, and our Bo as an IMM work on top of Fin, we can make money by making markets. So every time we make market with a XYK Bo pool, effectively we are taking a little spread every time there is price movement. We sell a bit of the tokens that goes up. We buy it back at 40 bips, let's say, cheaper whenever it goes down. As long as there is volatility, we effectively trade within that range with limited orders, which provide liquidity for people to trade, and we make money out of it. While it's also allow Kuji stackers to make money, because suddenly we facilitate volumes, and therefore people can trade, and the Fin 15 bips on taker order and 7.5 bips on maker orders. That goes all to Kuji stacker. So it's a very symbiotic relationship. And for me, that was the plan for the beginning. I'm very much aligned with Kuji vision. And Mike was as well, I think, at the beginning, at least. He was much bigger share of Kuji than me. And so he was very well incentivized to share this vision. And that's what I put in the docs, that people can see from the beginnings. That what the vision I presented in all the documents. Also, I shared with other protocol when negotiating treasury swap deals, and we can discuss about that. But that was one of the way we raised capital early and started to seed liquidity. But then what happened is basically for me, at the core, is really a difference of long-term vision. And I think the reality is that started with some interpersonal relationship between Mike and some other people in the community, and this escalated to crazy level. And I'm very not that much present on social media, and I really I'm not the guy who's ever looking to make noise just to make noise and try to farm attention. I could not give a shit about that. I hate this spirit, but it's how a lot of people play this game. And so when you spend a certain amount of time in social media, you end up having this type of escalation of emotions and fight, and that's what happened with Mike and some other community member, and it escalated to crazy proportions to a point that it became all emotion driven on both sides, and the vision of oh, we are here to grow Kujira all together like a happy family was gone. Now it became some personal vendetta on each side. It was very bad, and this led to Mike wanting to reallocate some of our liquidity to Osmosis, which he presented as an economic argument, but that's not true. I mean, it depends how you see things, but reality is he was looking at volume and saying that there is not much volume on Fin, and therefore we could use this liquidity better on Osmosis. But reality is it's not how it works, because for us the volumes, lack of volumes, impact Fin stackers, but doesn't impact us as liquidity provider, because as long as there is price volatility, even on low volume, the way we make money with Bo XYK LPs is via trading profits and not via volumes. Volumes generate fees for Kuji stackers, but we make money from trading profits. So even with little volumes, we can actually make good money. And you can see that if you look at our monthly report, even now, the last 2 months, we have seen volume overall going down on Kujira, and yet we have had some of our best months ever in terms of revenue from market making activity. And the reason is because all this volatility allow us to, despite low volume, make good trading profits. So I think that was not the real reason. The real reason was really this little vendetta that was going on, and the fact that we are no longer aligned in terms of vision and commitment to grow Kujira. And so that's what happened. We had this controversial MIP 229 proposal. Eventually, like the popular vote was really against relocating this liquidity. Most, if you look at most of the yes vote was mostly Mike or wallet controlled by Mike, and in terms of quantity of people voting against, it was like a very, very large majority. And even like in terms of percentage, we are slightly, it was very close, but the no was winning. So Mike decided to change his vote, and he took it as a sign that it was time for him to move and go somewhere. So it's bad. Like we worked closely together for a while, so I would have very much preferred a different outcome, like keeping him as a builder and being all of us like aligned in terms of vision. But I think that was the best possible outcome, because once you have like conflicting visions and the focus is no longer on really trying to grow the pie for everyone, but on spending energy and time and people attention on this type of fight, it's counterproductive for everyone. So it was much better just to leave it there and move away to something else. So that's what has been happening. Of course, it comes with quite a few steps, complexity we need to deal with. The two main, so I have drafted a transition plan with a lot of different items that we need to take care of. We are making good progress on the execution of that. The two big work stream that are left is one about migrating the smart contracts of MontaDAO to DAO. So that's the new DAO platform that has launched on Kujira. The initial plan, Mike was building a competing product to that, which was using MontaDAO's smart contract infrastructure and generalizing that for any DAO to be able to use it. So of course, because he's leaving, I did not want us to have any dependency on his work in the future, and the product wasn't even ready, and we did not have much time. So the logical conclusion was to migrate from our current smart contract infrastructure to the DAO one. So that's taking a bit of time, because it's not like if you are starting from scratch a new DAO. We need to migrate. We have people stacked already. We have assets in that will change the contract address. So this is one of the things that is still moving pieces, but we are going to do that. And the other part was, of course, getting back control of MontaSwap. Effectively, Mike had the code of MontaSwap, so we are getting back the smart contract code, but the whole logic of routing, like looking at all the different possibility pairs on Fin and what's the optimal path, that's where the magic happened. And that part of the code, he decided he will not transfer it to the DAO. So we had to fairly quickly react and build something new, and which that led us to launching MontaSwap V2, which is effectively will be just still a single pass router, so you don't split a swap into several routes. That will come later, but at least it will be more performant, and it will be code that is 100% owned by the DAO, and that remove all dependency to Mike. So once we have done those two things, migrate the DAO smart contract and migrate to MontaSwap V2, we will be completely fresh and ready to move forward and back to what we are doing. And of course, there is also the question of Mike exiting his position. So everybody knows that he had a big position both in Monta and Koji. He has been exiting those over time since this whole discussion started. So we also need to weather this little storm, and once the sell pressure coming from that will be gone, we can go back to growth and building up more liquidity, fundraising, and do all those fun stuff that grows the entire ecosystem. So it's all on the way, and we got great people like so Jan Devman. You may have seen it on Twitter with a guy with whom I have build MontaFi. So he's mine, like I provide the what we need in terms of financial and presentation, all that, but he's the one doing all the code and all the magic. Like, this completely out of my league, and he's great. And he has been stepping up also to do all the work for MontaSwap V2. So amazing guy, very, very lucky that we have him in the DAO. And we got also Alex from Recurral Node and Comb, who has been helping with all the infrastructure part, setting up RPC, and now trying to host all of that in a more decentralized fashion using Akash. And he has been also like amazing to work with. So we are like in very good spot in terms of talents. I'm a big fan of a small team of doers, and that's very much what it is now. Very efficient. And all of that works like beautifully. Like we have no cost, no recurring salaries or stuff like that keep extracting value and misaligning interest between people at the DAO who get those perks and people who don't. No, everything is based on grants, small grants, retroactive grants. People get a little some things when they have proven they have built value, brought value to the DAO, and or when there is something to build. So for example, Manta 5v2, Jan will be getting a grant for that. We'll use grants we have in the past, and we will continue to use that in the future. And those grants are being paid in milestone on delivery to avoid any case of people coming, pitching something and getting the first payment and then running away, which we have seen in the past when Kujira at the Senate, and we were a bit, we're still learning how to optimize capital allocation and payment workflows. So yeah, so that's the story of what happened and a bit of where we are now. So a little storm to weather, but honestly, we are in a very good shape. Things are now like clearer and clearer. Like on the Manta Swap front, we are almost out of the woods. We'll likely launch the beta version of the new Manta Swap next week. And in any case, like by the end of June, we aim at having migrated everything and be ready to move to the next phase of growth.
Thank you for the primer and the overview, because I mean, like I said, as someone who is still relatively new, like I didn't know like the whole backstory or anything else like that. And and then you kind of answered, Joe was asking this about, like, are you selling tokens to pay salaries and stuff like that? And clearly you're not, as you just noted. One of the things too that I really like, I was already kind of a big believer, but really what cemented it more than anything was your deck. Like around Valentine's Day or somewhere around there, like you drop this wonderful deck, and I'm like showing it to everybody in my company. I'm like, yo, you need some Kuji. Like, and like even my one of our co-founders like, man, it's already like a 300 million market cap. Like, what's the real upside to this thing? And I was like, you don't understand like the design. Like, I was just trying, I feel like I'm out there trying to proselytize people on behalf of Kujira, like just trying to like get them to come try the ecosystem. And I feel like one of the things I really need to do is just make a very short video, because like one thing that I like, even my my direct boss, he is a former Goldman Sachs guy. He's one of the shrewdest financial minds I've ever met. He's super, super smart. He seems to just like be able to figure out yields in his head real quick and this and that. And I finally got him to actually like try out Kujira. And so he bridged some funds over, and he was like, I don't get like how to move things like round, or like where are the different dApps? I'm like, there's just that little thing right there with the 4 squares. If you hover over it, all the dApps like just show right up, like fin, bow, like. And so I think people don't even know that you can just click that button. And what's nice too is when you click on, let's say you want to go to Ghost, which admittedly is like my favorite one, because as I was saying in the beginning, like as just someone who is fairly diversified as a digital asset investor, like I love the fact that I can just put those assets to work. Or even now where, my bank, for instance, like my wife and I, we're very much savers. We're probably like, even the first time we ever sat down with a financial advisor, the guy said, you save too much, which I didn't even think was possible. But it also, to your point, like you were saying earlier, like I don't worry about price action or anything. I sleep well at night because I know like all our bills are paid, like we're very good. You've seen some of the Wednesday wisdom, like don't be in debt, have budgets, like you just want to be
account for everything. I was very impressed by that one.
Like, but now I'm at the point where, because I can get a better return on Kujira, I literally set up a separate account in a Leap wallet with a ledger derivation that has a different derivation, like to where I put so much friction behind this thing. I thought like, I'm not going to go into this to get like stables out to go degen and just buy a bunch more tokens. And so we have our savings in our money market, which is earning not even maybe 1% if it's lucky. And I said to my wife, I said, look, for our continued long-term savings, it makes no sense to just keep putting money in the money market. You know, we have a nice balance there. We have emergency fund that's like cash if we need it. But normally each month when we would just put more money in there, I said, we're better off buying stables. And so literally like once a month, I just buy USDC on Coinbase. I send it to Noble for free through Coinbase. And Joe's probably watching this like, oh, because he can't do this in New York. New York is so ridiculous, like the way that they've clamped down. But I can, and I send it to Noble. I make one IBC hop. It costs me like a penny. And I'm over on Kujira. And then I send it specific. This is like once a month. Go on there. I get out the ledger. I go into the account. I go into Ghost, and I just lend it out. You know, and sometimes the APY is bananas. I think the last time I looked, was like down to 7%, but that's way better than the bank. You know, and
it's still amazing. Like we got greedy because we got used to a period of like a double, triple.
Yeah,
double,
and people will complain,
plus,
like, "Oh, it's not even 10%." It's like, what world are you living in? Like, you can't get that, you know. And it just seems like
exactly.
it's an easy set and forget play for me, because it's just like now I've created this little friction because I got to get out the ledger, and because you know, and it's in a different account, and I buried it on I hardly use Leap, so I'm like, okay, well, I'll just use this account. But now it's just become like a long-term savings vehicle. I mean, I get that I'm exposing it to smart contract risk, but I also know that, you know, these contracts have all been audited because people were like, I remember when I first came here, a lot of the FUD was around that it's closed source, you know, because there's this whole idea in Web3 that everything has to be open source. And it's like, well, if you have great IP, how are people not going to steal your product? Like, and just like we see it all the time right now with L2s are a good example. Somebody, you know, like, and crypto is crazy in the sense that somebody will just like make an exact fork, a copycat of something, get people to invest millions of dollars in it. Then they throw out a token, right? I'm sure a lot of this is just resonating with Joe. And then the token just goes to zero. And it doesn't add anything. It doesn't add any value to the broader ecosystem, to crypto. It doesn't add, it's just value extractive. It's not value additive. Whereas I feel like the stuff that is being built on Kujira is meant to have a real world use case. And to your point, like you said, like it's this shared revenue model where, you know, imagine as you know, if we get everybody, if more people come in and there's more users and people are using the tools, all the fees that are generated going to the stakers, you know, it's all expertly laid out in your deck. Right. And that's what I try to tell people all the time. Like, this is something, and it's just almost like this virtuous cycle of economic beneficence when the flywheel is going, right? Like, it's just ripping and people are going to make passive income. And so, I mean, you covered so many things for why I love Kujira, and now like just knowing a little bit more about Manta DAO and seeing that.
I love that part.
It is 5% on Coinbase. And what's interesting, and this is a nice little hack too, is I do admittedly keep a small pile of stables on Coinbase, because what I've found, and this is the one thing I hate about Coinbase, is that they will take my dirty fiat money like that. Like, it'll be gone from my bank account that day when I deposit. But a lot of times they will wait for your funds to settle before you can withdraw. And what I found is that by keeping the same amount of stables that I buy each month, like just there sitting there, it counts as like collateral that I'm withdrawing against. So I can just buy more stables, and so I keep that little pile that's making 5%, and then I immediately withdraw, send it to Noble, off to Kujira, down the rabbit hole it goes, and it keeps earning. And Joe's a closed source maxi. Yeah, and so that, and I think that's
I see that. On the point, just on open source, cross source, I see a lot of benefits to sourcing. It's better for security, it's better for intercomposability, but it makes perfect business sense for the reason you explained, that in crypto the cost of creation is super low, but the cost of application is even lower, and that opens the door to all sorts of grifter to come and take the credit for what you do, and maybe with better marketing or investment, being able to front run you on your own success by just being short-term minded, and like for example launching the same stuff as you but with a overinflated tokens that pay you a lot of reward up front, and just like that Vampiro TVL. So I think it's a good like I'm very pro open source, but it has to be on time, and I think for the time being it makes perfect sense for Kujira to keep things closed till we get to this years multi-decade game. So at some point, like in the next few years, like we are gonna get to a critical scale, and then that's where it starts to make sense to open source things, I think. But too early is, I think, a very good business strategy to keep things close, especially when you know like there's a lot of teams that spend millions in salaries and tokens for their dev team every month, that have a lot of big VC, because they have a lot of big VC funding allowing that, but those people actually are not able to produce anything close to the quality of the apps we see on Kujira. And there is a real risk that this well-capitalized project use part all of what Kuji is doing to just take the credit for their own project, and try to make those incremental tweaks to it that will make it better or more appealing in the short term, while they are not the one that should get the credit for this innovation. So yeah, I think closed source for now at least makes sense, make a lot of sense. Yeah, and also
right.
I was saying I love that you pitch my deck everywhere like that. Thank you, because
Man,
I took a lot of time and effort to put it. I should update it at some point, but it's great to see like you have been doing good use of it. So thanks for
I
that.
can't tell you how many people I shared that with. Like, I was sharing that with people that I work with. I was in other Discords. Like, I mean, so I'm not a maxi. At the end of the day, like as I said, most of our token value like is still Bitcoin and Ethereum. I got really interested in Polkadot in 2020 because I do still think if I'm a maxi about anything, it's interoperability. And so it made perfect sense. Like our company, when we were building infrastructure, because we already had a foothold in Polkadot, we started building infrastructure there. Then, of course, went to Cosmos because that's like our cousin in the interop world. And, you know, I think too, and none of the Polkadot people that I know would probably like me saying this, but like, I think IBC has already won the war in terms of just like an interoperability sort of standard, right? Because like when I was at ETH Denver, it didn't matter like that, even if it was like the movement labs, if I was like around Rushi and those guys and like all the movement stuff, IBC is getting mentioned. If you're talking about L2s, IBC is getting mentioned. Right. You see like even Polkadot natives like Composable Labs, who then connected to the Cosmos through Picasso. And now they're doing the IBC plans for Solana and for Ethereum. So like you're just going to continue to see this sort of proliferate. And I think that at the end of the day, you know, as these things start to mature, people are it's going to be easier and easier, I think, to navigate between ecosystems. Or look at what Squid Router, look what Axelar has built, right? So I mean, and this is why I love like everything being in one spot on Kujira, because it's like I don't have to go to a different chain. I don't have to go find some other specific dApp to do something. Like everything's right there. And yeah, I was sharing that in like other Discord servers and other ecosystems, like talking to people about Kujira. And it's even my wife now, she's like, why? What is it about Kujira? She still doesn't quite get it. And so
did you read the deck?
Well, no, it's that would probably be admittedly a little too much for her. She'd probably be like, okay, no, so what I did was like she started airdrop farming in December. And so she's really kind of got into crypto. And before she just knew, it's like she knew about it and we would talk about it and she'd know our numbers went up and we'd peel profits and whatever. But like she didn't really like engage the way that she's been engaged the last 5 or 6 months, to the point where she was saying, what should I buy this or that? Should I buy that? So I just send her a little ETH. I sent her this. I said, you need to make these decisions. You need to like figure out how to use these tools, because heaven forbid anything ever happens to me, you have access to all this capital that's, you know, digital in nature, and you need to know how to use it. So that makes me feel comfortable, because now she's quite comfortable. I swear she juggles more wallets than me now, because she has like a notebook with like 15 different wallets when she's trying to airdrop farm and stuff. Like, I'm like, girl, that's too crazy. Like, I can't even, I can barely juggle 3 wallets. And so I gave her stables, and I just sent her like $1,000 in stable. And I said, so what am I supposed to do with it? Should I buy this? Should I buy that? I'm like, you buy whatever you want. And then it just sat there. And I was like, hon, if you're not going to do anything with those stables, lend them out. So she finally, like, because they were just still sitting in Noble, and I was like, come to Kujira, let's put these in Ghost. You've already seen what we have with our stables that we're saving. This is the same thing. I said, why don't you earn, if you don't know what you want to do with those tokens, and you don't have a thesis for investing in something else right this moment, earn at least something on it. Don't let it just sit there being idle. So,
of course, time value of money. she got
yeah,
that
so like,
now.
so now
Amazing.
she was like, oh, and she kind of got to see some of the dApps, and I showed her different things. I said, if you wanted to get some stuff, you know, that if you wanted other tokens that exist in Kujira, you could go to Fin. And so like, I kind of showed her the different dApps that are available, and she now knows how to use Ghost. And she's like, okay, so what do I do? Do I just, okay, hit this button? So she worked her way through it, and she was able to lend out her stables. So, and I said, look at this. And so we went back, I don't know, like after we had done it a couple weeks later, I'm like, you already earned a few dollars. And she's like, but it's only a few dollars. I'm like, it would take us like months to earn that in the bank. And she's like, oh yeah, you're right. So like, she kind of, it's really starting to click. And I think as a former educator, this is the one thing I love, is seeing like people discover things that are novel and have it really resonate with them. And that, to me, at the end of the day, is why, like, I think I so quickly fell in love with Kujira, just seeing all the tools that are being built. And then on top of that, the crazy community that I've just really come to love, because people are just really unique here. And I also think there was this thing too, where for better or worse, and just knowing a little bit of the backstory about the Cosmos cartel, like, I also kind of like that Kujira was like the black sheep of the Cosmos. Like, now no one wants to like claim that they're part of Cosmos, right? Like, you see this thing with Barachain, and like, or I think the first one was DYDX was like, we're not a Cosmos chain, you know, like, so, oh, hey, thanks Stephen for stopping in. Thank you. Appreciate the comment. Oh, here, I'm still learning how to like juggle all this stuff. So this is the second episode. I see people putting up comments. I'm like, I gotta show these, but I don't want to take my attention off you and our conversation. But thank you so much, Stephen. This really, or Stefan, I don't know how you say it, your pronunciation, but appreciate the comments. And the Kuji cartel, yeah, we're coming to take over, baby. Cash knows what's up. But yeah, so any closing thoughts? I knew I do need to cap this off at an hour, because I have to get back to like my primary job as director of protocol relations, and I have a bunch of other stuff to do. But first and foremost, thank you for taking the time to visit with us. I really, really appreciate you coming to speak with me, PM. I knew you and I were like kindred spirits the minute we started just kind of riffing back and forth on X. And in Telegram, you're always like, we're GMing back and forth in Manta. But I appreciate you. I appreciate all that you're doing. I appreciate everybody who's watching, who's tuned in, whether live or on the replay. It's a great ecosystem to be a part of. And thank you for being here. But close us out. Final words. What do you want to say? What words of encouragement might you have?
No, well, first, thanks for hosting me. It was super cool, and nice to chat with you a bit. And thanks for spreading all the love and education to the community. Like, we really need people like you. That's not my strength, and so I'm glad you are also to do that. And yeah, I mean, just people keep that in mind, that we are building a new economic system, one version of the possible many versions that blockchain enable, of a new economic system for the world that is more fair, more transparent, that's allow value creation to flow more efficiently across network participants. That's us, all of us. And so, have this long-term spirit, and we are all gonna make it, and I will be great. So, don't worry about price action. Good things are coming.
Well, thanks so much again, Pragmatic Monkey. I really appreciate you being here. If anybody is interested in joining me for Coach's Corner, I'm going to do this hopefully every single Friday, normally at 4 p.m. EST. And I would probably be drinking whiskey. It's a little too early in my day for that to start the weekend. But
Birthday
otherwise,
one, but just if you drink as well.
But thanks so much for being here. Thank you for everybody who tuned in, whether live or on the replay. And you can follow, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel. If you want to be a guest on Coach's Corner, please reach out to me. My DMs are all open. Telegram at the Funky One. You get at Kuji Coach, or Coach Kuji rather, on X. Just get in touch with me and we'll have you on and we'll have a great conversation. All right, gang. Thanks so much. Take care. Have a wonderful weekend.
Take care, guys. Bye.